less stress, more time, more money. Welcome to the Cashflow Contractor, short with Martin Holland.
What is the purpose of business? Hi, I'm Martin, and welcome to this short episode in which we're going to take a look at that question. What is the purpose of business? I had a paving contractor as a client a few years ago. He was a really great guy. And if you were to meet him, within 10 minutes, he would have told you how many millions of dollars he sold the prior year and how many more millions of dollars he's going to sell next year. What he wouldn't tell you is what his costs were, or his margins, or his profit, because he didn't know those things. He was a great example of someone who's hung up on the wrong things. And that leads us to what are the right things? What is the purpose of business? There can be an infinite number of reasons, subjective reasons, to go into business. Maybe it's because you want to be your own boss, you want autonomy. Maybe it's a challenge. You want to see if you could do it, if you can build a successful business. Maybe you're altruistic and you're somebody who wants to create jobs and provide for families. And there are as many subjective reasons to go into business as there are business people. And all of those subjective reasons can be valid. In contrast, there's only one objective purpose to be in business, and that purpose is to convert cash into more cash. So let me explain what I mean by that. It takes cash to start a business, and there are two ways to get it. You can borrow the money, which we're all familiar with, or someone can invest the money. Either you or somebody else can invest the money, by which I mean you put money into the business in exchange for ownership. Once you have some cash, you use it to buy assets such as inventory, equipment, machinery, building, office, furniture, computers. But you use the money to buy assets that you then use to generate sales, which, if you priced your projects correctly, generate margins, which you use to pay your overhead, and once your overhead is paid, to accumulate as profit. So we've gone from assets to profit, but we're not finished yet. We also have to convert the profit into more cash. And I say more cash because you have the cash you began with, and because of profit, you have more cash. You then use the cash to buy more assets to keep the cycle turning, or to pay down your debt, or to pay a return to you or your outside investor. That's the cycle of business. So why do I even bring it up? It makes sense, and everybody, I think everybody gets it. They say, well, I understand that. But how do we behave? How do we act? My paving contractor was hung up on the first step of that cycle, sales. His pursuit when he bid jobs was to get the sale. He got to talk about it. He knew a lot about it. He thought that was the most difficult job. The main challenge to somebody in business is to get sales. And it is a challenge to get sales, but it's meaningless, and thus the sales can also convert ultimately to profit and then into cash. Other people are focused on profit, which is further down the cycle. So they've got the margins and they've kept their overhead down and they generate a profit. But profit isn't sufficient. We all know that you can't make payroll with profit. You can't make payroll with assets or sales. You have to have cash. You can't pay your bank. You can't meet your obligations with profit. You have to have cash. So we're not finished until we've converted cash into more cash. To give you an example of that, I had another contractor call me a number of years ago in February, and he was obviously distraught. He had started his company the prior July, so 7 months earlier, with $30,000 he had saved. And by the time we talked the following February, 7 months later, he was selling over $100,000 a month. Well, that sounds like a pretty good success so far as sales are concerned, and that's correct. But this man went beyond that. He understood margins and he understood profit. So what was the problem? Well, the problem was he had no cash. He had significant accounts payable that he due to suppliers. He had an even larger number of accounts receivable due to him from his customers that he'd billed, but he had no cash and wasn't able to meet his obligations. His customers were mad at him because he wasn't finishing jobs. And the reason he wasn't finishing jobs was his suppliers had him on credit hold. So he had to scramble to do something to get a job finished and a little cash in so he could pay off a little bit, and his suppliers would release a little bit of materials and equipment to him so he could finish another job, and it was driving the man crazy. So how is it that a guy who's making a profit and making sales and doesn't have any cash, how did he get in that condition? Well, in his case, he had met competitors' terms of allowing 60 to 90 days accounts receivable. So he allowed his customers 60 to 90 days to pay their bills. Well, he had to do that in his mind because that's what it took to get the sale in the competitive environment he was in. But what happened was every dollar that his sales increased 1 month over the prior month, he had to have another 60 cents of cost available to him to pay suppliers and his labor. So as his sales went up, so did his problem. His payables were going up, his receivables were going up even more. He was making a nice profit, but he had no cash. I'm sorry to say that man is no longer in business. We got him an SBA loan, which helped for a while, but he was so frazzled by the whole experience that he eventually quit business. So the purpose of business, the objective purpose of business is to convert cash into more cash. There, of course, are sales, there's margin, there are overhead, and there are profit in there. You have to pay attention to all those things, but your emphasis has to be on the entire cycle. Now, I have a PDF in the show notes that restates in a little diagram of the profit of business or the purpose of business. I encourage you to get it, print it out, put it on your computer screen, laminate it, put it on the wall, but be sure that the jobs that you get have a very high probability of going all the way through profit to more cash.
Thanks for listening to The Cashflow Contractor. Check out our website in the show notes or visit thecashflowcontractor.com.